which is a hilarious kind of predicament to be in. And I love watching that. But there is in New York, there are incredibly stylish women at both ends of the spectrum. You know what I mean? And I bet it would be an incredible, I think it would be just as fascinating and just as dynastic as the LA thing. You know what I mean? I think Andy could find the girls who were actually, you know, they were on to something with Tinsley Mortimer. They were on to something there. You know what I mean? I bet they could get a real cast of real sort of people, you know?
Yeah. Issac, I say this all day, every day. It's like, I think if you're not from New York, you know, you get an idea, but you don't really. It is, these are the girls that are not there. And I just think for escape TV, yes, I think Tinsley was the closest thing to that. And I personally want to see, like, you know, the charity event where this is so exclusive that cameras aren't allowed, but the housewife is actually bigger than the whole charity. So cameras are going to be allowed, like pure wealth.
How the Met Ball is not the focus of like the RHONY thing. Like, how is that not true, right? Like, just that alone is so hilarious, right? Yes. You know, darling, you know. In New York, forget about it. Forget about it. It's more exclusive here than, yeah.
And it's different. It's like, you know, the private schools and, you know, getting wanting to get your kid into a school that costs $90,000 a year for kindergarten at, you know, age 1, like all this craziness. I think people would find it so interesting.
Or this kind of like, you know, multi-branding kind of corporate maniac thing. Like they don't get that too. And you have like, I don't know, you have like Sonia Morgan, you know, like trying to get who I love, you know, I love Sonia Morgan, right? And I think she's gorgeous. I do. I think she's really pretty. But you know, it's like
gorgeous. Yeah,
she's gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. Like Sonia, forget about it. And I just pray that she doesn't touch her face too much. Like tell her if you know her. I bet you know Sonia. Tell her not to touch that motherfucking nose because it's so good, right? Anyway, but you know, it's like she gets a license with Century 21 and they go out of business. You know what I mean? It's like, really? What about like all those huge, fabulous women who have like major corporate maniacs, right? They're out there. So
they're out there. That's what I agree with you. That's what we should do. And I think Tinsley was the closest thing other than Bethenny, but Bethenny just did well.
Bethenny, exactly. Bethenny, period. End of story, right? Bethenny Frankel.
One of your many Watch What Happens Live appearances. You were there with Bethenny once.
Right.
What do you think of like Diana Jenkins since you watch Beverly Hills?
You know, I think that because the thing about Sutton, it's really not about Diana for me. It's about how much I kind of appreciate Sutton, right? I don't even really know her. We follow each other, we message each other sometimes, but I like her. And I think she's not wrong. You know, that whole thing with Erika Jayne, when Erika Jayne was telling them all this stuff that wasn't true. And then finally she used the word liar. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, it wasn't. And I loved Erika Jayne, but she was trying to create this like big smoke screen about what was going on. And I felt like Sutton was only trying to protect herself by consulting with a lawyer. You know, it's like, well, wait a minute, because you remember the Harvey Weinstein thing, right? And how there were people who were so loyal to Harvey Weinstein and they went down because they thought, well, this is going to pass and the power is going to take hold again and blah, blah. And who was wrong? You know what I mean? And so like, you do have to be careful about who you associate yourself with, right? So I didn't think she was wrong. Of course, how she handled it maybe was a little bit weird and hilarious, which is to me very good TV. So I can't fault her for that. But she, I thought, was right through that whole thing. You know what I mean? And now I found that Diana Jenkins was a little bit predisposed to not liking Sutton. It's like someone said, oh, Sutton's in her ear. Should they poured a little bit of poison into Diana's ear about Sutton, and suddenly she was weirdly hostile towards Sutton, you know, like sort of passive aggressively hostile to Sutton. And Sutton, who is, you know, really sensitive, she picked up on it and she started acting out. And that's not Sutton's fault, darling. That is not her fault, you know. And by the way, bacon-eating vegetarian. I'm right there with you, babe, right there. Because we're not proud of the fact that we're bacon-eating vegetarians, you know, but that's anomalous or something. And it's like, really, it's not contradictory. It's just funny. It's just stylish. Okay. So that I didn't like either, when Diana kind of glommed onto the bacon-eating thing. And then Diana, bless her, you know, she was she was on bed rest, and she said, no, I'm not coming. And then she showed up. Well, that's also, in that case, then, right? Like, that's dichotomous, right? That's a little bit, you say one thing, you do another thing. And that's a little confusing. So what's the difference, darling? You know, did you see my thing? My little Issac, the puppet, who I sometimes talk to on Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Issac. Sorry. Yes.
Listen,
so that's how I feel about it. But
well, first of all, the audience doesn't seem to like Diana Jenkins very much either. So you're in good company.
I happen to think, you know what it is that doesn't work in her favor is the way she looks so much like a Trump wife with the big piled blonde hair and all the, you know, it looks there, and the little accent, which you can't help. It's just very Ivana. It's very Ivana.
She's cold.
Well, I don't mind cold. And when it's, you know, like Erika Jayne was cold forever. And I was like, the colder she got, the more I was like, yeah, Erika, you know. But this one, I don't know. It goes a little Trumpy for me. You know, that's all. And that is not her fault. That is.
And you listen, Sutton's, I mean, you love, Sutton's been on this show 3 times, authentic as can be. She's the real, like, there's no angle, right? She'll stand up to you and then she cries afterwards. But I mean, but she's speaking up when she sees a problem. She's the real deal. Right.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
No, so, I agree.
Like Diana. It's not that I don't like Diana. It's just that I err on the side of Sutton. Yeah.
And how do you feel? I mean, your QVC buddy, Lisa Rinna, are you still pro Rinna and all that she does?
I love Lisa Rinna. I love her. I haven't seen the most recent, because the Rasmussen episode airs tonight, right? So,
yeah.
So far, you know, Lisa Rinna, so far, so good. I mean, I love her. She's just so fucking crazy and so fucking funny. I love Lisa. I really mean that.
When you show up to QVC and she's there and you run into her, it's just a fun day.
It's the best thing in the world. I miss her a lot, you know, because we don't really go to the studio anymore. We do it remotely, but yeah.
Well, you know, you sing. Would you ever have like any desire to ever create music, like do your own music? Just curious.
Sure. I do write lyrics a lot. I write those. I rewrote the lyrics to that Cole Porter song, "You're the Top," right? And I wrote lyrics to that Beach Boys tune called Pet Sounds. And I wrote a whole rap, which I'll probably do again at 54 Below, if I could get it to sound good, right? And I just wrote a song. I wrote the lyrics to a song that I think Ben is going to actually write as a song, and I may have it ready for February when I have my residence at the Carlisle. So
wow,
check back in with me.
I will check back in with you. If you could do a duet with either Luann or Erika Jayne, they both sing. Any preference?
How about a trio? Wouldn't that be so hot? Like a threesome.
I mean,
Erika, Luann, and me. That would be incredible.